Good evening and welcome to the December 2025 Orange Board of Selectmen meeting. For those of you in the audience, in the event of an emergency, my right, your left would be the stairway that goes up to the rear parking lot where probably most everybody parked. If for some reason that was not passable, you could go down the hallway out the back and up the stairs, would put you in the parking lot by the fire department. Or if you went up the stairs on the, behind the wall with the clock on it through the double doors, you'd be put out in front of the town hall. With that said, please rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Some Jerry.
I know, I'm gonna order those, huh?
We'll start down there with Mitchell tonight.
Good evening, Mitch Goldblatt.
Bill Kraut.
Good evening, John Carangelo.
Owen Weaver, Town Council.
Ann Denny, Secretary to the Board.
Judy Smith.
Okay, do we have a public hearing tonight? Is there a motion to close the regular meeting and convene the public hearing? Motion's made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Aye. The public hearings regarding the proposed ordinance to amend the code of the Town of Orange to add the Article 6 Automated Traffic Enforcement Safety Devices to Chapter 366. Ann?
Town of Orange Notice of Public Hearing. Notice is hereby given to the residents and taxpayers of the Town of Orange that in accordance with Section 3.4 of the Charter of the Town of Orange, that the Orange Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, December 10th, 2025, at 7 p.m. in the lower level meeting room at the Town Hall, 617 Orange Center Road, Orange, Connecticut, on the proposed set forth below, on the purpose of the proposed ordinance to amend the code of the Town of Orange to add Article 6 Automated Traffic Enforcement Safety Devices to Chapter 366. Written comments will be received at the First Selectman's office until 4 p.m. Wednesday, December 10th, 2025. Thereafter, comments should be presented at the public hearing. Dated at Orange, Connecticut, this 24th day of November, 2025. Board of Selectmen, Town of Orange.
Thank you. I received several email correspondence up until, well, at least 4:30, but I just looked at it before I came down here, and these were the ones that had sent in emails, so I need to recognize these first, so they are made part of the record. But this one is from Elizabeth Healy here in town, who is in favor. The next one is from Stacy Durquiza, in favor. Laura Stenzi, Wilson Road, in favor. Carissa Lucia, in favor. I'm going to say it's a Matt Lucia, Matt Mitchell, at Mitchell's. Matt Lucia, in favor. Lauren Gray, in favor. Felice Flanagan, in favor. Martha Judd, in favor. Judy Primavera, in favor. Brad Marcus, in favor. Fred Hulley, in favor. Phyllis McGrath, in favor. Rachel Richard, in favor. Gabriel Cabrera, Gigi, in favor. Jennifer Jacquet, in favor. Kathleen McGuire with Fuel for Thought, I'm going to call hers. And this one came in late. Kristen and Ryan Donahue, in favor. So those are what we received up till, well, before I came down here tonight, and those will be entered into the record with this hearing. With that,
Jim, is it okay to add another one?
Oh,
that came
and
yeah.
Ginny,
So Ginny Reinhardt had written to me to express her name in favor,
Yes.
wishes to add her name to whatever's being used.
okay, yeah.
I think all the other ones that I received are ones that you have just delineated. Thanks.
Yeah, no, that way they're all there. Did she send an email that you want to put with the stack, or only so it's just in there? Okay, so this was brought forth. Owen, would you like to speak to this
Sure.
first?
All right, thank you. So this is a proposed ordinance to amend or to add, excuse me, Article 6, Automated Traffic Enforcement Safety Devices to Chapter 366 of the Town Code. The authority to adopt this ordinance comes again from Public Act 23-116, which is entitled An Act Implementing the Recommendations of the Vision Zero Council. The purpose of the ordinance and the act is to give municipalities the authority to use automated traffic enforcement devices within the town. Before this legislation, only the DOT could use such devices in their work zones. The act requires that the ordinance have specific provisions, and there's a whole process to follow before cameras actually become active and used in town. And the ordinance, or adopting an ordinance, excuse me, is one of the first prerequisites to accomplishing that. If an ordinance is passed, the town then has to develop a comprehensive traffic safety plan. That plan is subject to a public hearing, has to be voted on by the Board of Selectmen, and assuming everything is approved, that then goes to DOT review for its approval and comments, if any. The act has two basic goals. I'll correct a misstatement I made at the last meeting. Selectman Goldblatt was correct. There are two distinct cameras that can be used or authorized to be used under the ordinance. One is a traffic device that captures how fast a vehicle may be going, and the other is a traffic device that will capture whether the vehicle goes through a steady red light. The ordinance authorizes the town to utilize either one. I just want to make clear, tonight, the town is not deciding whether or not to ultimately implement either type of camera. It's just deciding whether or not it wants to adopt an ordinance that allows the town to ultimately decide if it wants to utilize either camera. For a speeding violation, the statute provides that if the camera catches you going 10 miles per hour or more over the posted speed limit, that is a violation. For the stop sign, it's if you're captured going through a steady red light. There was some discussion last meeting about whether or not that posted limit, or 10 miles per hour or more, could be changed within the ordinance. I have spoken to the general counsel for the DOT. When the DOT reviews a comprehensive safety plan, a copy of the ordinance has to be part of that plan. But the DOT does not take a position, or it doesn't review the ordinance with respect to compliance with the legislation. It's more interested in what locations the town has selected for the cameras. So the DOT currently does not have a position on whether or not a municipality can use a number higher than 10 miles per hour for an infraction, and doesn't anticipate that there will be a change in that position, though there may be in the future. The ordinance as presently drafted has the 10 miles per hour or more language, which mirrors the language of the statute. There's some other provisions in there that the ordinance has to provide for. It has to have a citation procedure for processing violations. The town already has that on its books. It also has a provision relative to what defenses a car owner can raise. So the citation goes to the car owner, not the operator of the vehicle. And there's a slew of defenses that a car owner can put forward to fight a citation. One of which is, if you're an emergency vehicle, that's a defense. Or if you're going through a red light at the instruction of a police officer or an ambulance or a fire truck who might be going to an emergency, that's a defense, among others. And there's also a privacy provision in the ordinance. Personal identifying information is only supposed to be kept for 30 days and then thereafter destroyed unless it's part of an active citation, and there might be some more time needed for that procedure to follow through. The town would have to adopt a privacy policy relative to the cameras. It has to meet or exceed a DOT sample policy, privacy policy, excuse me. DOT published that in January. I have a copy here. It's 4 paragraphs. But should the ordinance pass and a comprehensive plan pass, then the town would also have to adopt a privacy policy relative to personal identifying information that may be captured by the cameras. Happy to answer any questions that anyone may have. Thank you.
The board have any questions to start? Mitchell?
Thank you, Owen. That's a great explanation of what we're doing here tonight. Just a last point, the privacy policy, privacy information policy, that is something we do separately, that's not part of this? You're saying?
Correct.
Thank you.
And who would draft that? Would that be under, with the police with your input, or?
It'd be for the Board of Selectmen to adopt, and I have it right here. It's a 4-paragraph.
That's what DOT
model
created.
DOT policy
So-
that the town would have to adopt, at least at a minimum, that
That's the
DOT
minimum.
has. There could be extra protections that the town takes into account. I imagine that the police department would probably help my office in crafting something if the town's looking for greater safeguards.
Just a quick question, if you may, to maybe elaborate on the method when there is a public notice that's been presented to the public of a pending matter before this board, and the emails that are received, whether or not this board should be responsive to those emails immediately, or should we wait until the hearing is conducted to respond? And I know there's a difference between the public hearing and then other pending board matters, but if you could just clarify it for all of us, I think it would help, because there was a lot of emails, and people, of course, send emails, and our reaction immediately is to respond. But my understanding is when you have a public hearing such as this, you shouldn't respond. And I just want some clarity on that, if you could help us.
Sure, happy to try and shed some light there. So we're in a public hearing on this particular proposed ordinance. As the secretary indicated earlier, written comment was acceptable, as well as public comment that I hope we'll hear from the public tonight. And this kind of goes to a question that Selectman Goldblatt had last meeting too, whether changes could be made to the ordinance during the public hearing, right? And I advised the board in between meetings that yes, there could be changes made unless there was a substantial deviation to what had been noticed. And the purpose there is, the purpose of a public hearing is to get public feedback so this board can make a conscientious decision as to what it wants to adopt, if anything. And it's important for the public to know the deliberation. So if public comment comes in, this board needs to, not only does this board, but the public also needs to know what the comments are. So I think, yes, it would not necessarily be in the best interest to be responding to emails on this particular topic before the public hearing. So you certainly are allowed to comment on any written comments you received now. You're not foreclosed from doing that.
Thank you for that clarification.
Okay.
Can I follow up on that?
Mitchell?
Yeah. So every email that I've received, I have responded to, not with an opinion that I was going to favor or not favor this ordinance, but just to acknowledge that it was received and that I appreciated their comments, their comments, would take their comments under consideration when making a decision. I don't see anything wrong with that. I did, and the other thing is I didn't do purposely was to copy all, because then we would potentially get into a discussion about something that would be improper to be discussing outside of the public domain.
Well, I appreciate that. We don't want any FOIA FOIA issues. No, I wasn't trying to suggest acknowledging receipt was inappropriate. I took from the question that substantive discussion in response. So, no harm, no foul.
Okay. The police department is here. I'm not sure if Raymond is going to speak to it. I know the chief is here. Would either one of you like to shed some light on thoughts on this before we open it up to the others? I don't.
Good evening, everyone. We are in support of this as the police department. Our mission states in part that we are to protect life and property, and that's what these devices do. So naturally, we would be in support of that. I realize that there's passionate opinions on both sides, and everyone is entitled to their opinions. And there are some challenges involved with this. However, just because there's challenges involved with something, that's not a reason not to do it. We're ready to meet those challenges in the interest of public safety. I want to thank Lieutenant LaPlante, who's done an awful lot of work in preparation for this. And if this does get adopted by the board, there's going to be a whole lot more work to do. So thank you, Lieutenant, for all the work you've done on this thus far. Other than that, you know, I could talk for hours, but I don't think you want that. And so if there's any specific questions that I could answer that you may be concerned with or you're not sure about, happy to answer those questions.
Questions for the chief?
One specific question, Chief, and thank you very much, and thank you, Lieutenant LaPlante, for all the work you've done and will continue to do on this, I'm sure. The question goes back to the issue that I raised at the last meeting before we came to this point about potentially raising the limit that someone would receive a citation higher than 10 miles per hour over the speed limit. And I'd like you to go on record and tell us your thoughts on that, if you don't mind.
We have the flexibility to raise it. The ordinance properly, and thank you to Attorney Weaver for crafting such a good ordinance. The ordinance should say 10 miles or over because that is what the law allows. However, that does not marry us to 10 miles. We, as a police department, have the flexibility to do 11, 12, 15, even 20. We have that flexibility. Some of my colleagues have found that they got so inundated with violations that have to be approved by someone in the police department that they had to raise it to 15. They had 10, they raised it to 15 just to slow it down while they caught up. And then as people started complying, they lowered it back down to 10. So we do have that flexibility, and that's not a decision that needs to be made going into it. We could evaluate all of that and adjust it as necessary.
That's done by the police.
Yes.
So I'm going to turn to Attorney Weaver then. So the ordinance that we're looking at tonight, where it says 10 miles an hour or more, I interpreted that, and I'm not the attorney, you are, I interpret that as we would give a citation 10 miles an hour or more. So that just was a fancy way of saying if you're over 10 miles an hour or more over the speed limit, you're going to get it. Not that, you know, but that you're saying that that does give us the flexibility as far as at what point
To set it.
we set it. Just want to make sure you're okay with that.
Right, yes, yeah, and again, General Counsel for DOT at least verbally confirmed to us that DOT is not taking a position that if your ordinance says 10 or more, that at 10 miles per hour, you have to issue a citation. So there's, as the chief said, there's some discretion there. So yes.
Is it our discretion, or is it the chief's?
Police
The police
department.
department?
By our, do you mean the Board of Selectmen?
Yes.
I would say it's the police who are enforcing the.
That's what I thought. Thank you.
Any other questions for the chief? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Now we'll open it up one at a time to the public. You have to come up, name and address.
excuse me, Jim, before the first person speaks, since this is a public hearing, are we limiting people to 2 minutes as we do during public participation? Before we get into this, I just want to make sure the rules are the same.
Generally, they have time to go on, but if it becomes rambling,
Okay,
then it would be different.
very good, thank you.
So just to clarify, am I ringing the
No,
bell at 2
no.
minutes, or
No.
No.
I'm doing a
Most-
saw- am I
most-
doing a
most
saw-
people
I'm
will-
getting out of it, John. Come on. Just by
I
waiting.
won't ramble, and
They taped it.
It's
Doesn't even
okay.
work.
Okay,
Most
then I
people,
guess
most
so.
people will, I presume, make their opinion in a thought, which won't take all that long, I don't think.
I did, I got 5 minutes.
So Frank Esposito, 29 Andrew Lane, Orange, retired Orange Police by almost 22 years, so I'm probably very dated. I want to welcome everybody to the board, new faces, those that tried to get on the board. Thank you for your service to the town. It's no greater honor for that. I started becoming aware of these processes with the election debates. It's certainly clear, abundantly clear, that not having them then and not having a decision at that time in that universe was probably the right thing to do, because we're all here tonight with a bunch of unanswered questions. I think I'm for the technology. Some of the things, and you're talking about license plate readers, speed cameras, traffic lights. The technology behind all of this is wonderful, and I think it has its place. My biggest concern would be misuse of the information. I have no problem with the integrity and the character of the Orange Police Department and their personnel, because I've worked with most of them. I think Chief Gagné and I are pretty much from the same era. Try to welcome you to the retirement side, can't beat it. But anyway, things have changed. I think that, we both can attest to that. I think the whole thing of this is about changing behavior. So rather than giving someone a $50 fine for going through the red light, you want to change behavior? Give them the real fine. You're going to have a police officer, I'll use Ray because he's here tonight, but assuming someone like Ray is going to look at the camera and verify a violation as a trained law enforcement officer, why not give them the full citation? Cut to the chase. I have issues with identifying the owner of the vehicle and the operator, but again, this obviously by the chief's comments and the board's, this is going to be a marathon, not a sprint, and that's what it should be. There's too many unanswered questions, and to the attorney's last comment, or there at the end, you're going to get all kinds of FOIA requests, because as an example, let's say there's 500 violations, and I'll put my TV lawyer hat on just for a second, okay? And you go out and you say, okay, there's 500 violations. Were they all acted on? Were 200 of them cut loose? Who made that decision? What's the ethical breakdown, the ethnic breakdown of, was it Orange residents that didn't get the ticket? Was it X, Y, or Z who didn't get it? And I think that's going to leave the door open for some potential problems. But I commend everybody for the work that's going into it. But I would definitely urge everyone to tread with caution, because it can open the door for some problems. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Frank.
Hi.
Good evening.
Alice Caston, 151 Sunrise Hill Circle. And I just want to say that I am recently here, 5 years here, from Long Island. They are all over Long Island. And after you get your first few tickets, you're more
First few.
careful. But, we all got them. I got school zone cameras. I went more than 15 miles an hour. Oh my God. It's hard to go less than 15. I have gotten, you didn't stop fully at the red light when you made your right turn. And of course I thought I did, but they have videos. You can't knock the video. But after you get a few of these things, you're really very aware of your speed. You're very aware of stopping, and it makes everybody safer. And I'm fully in favor of these. And, if you go broke a little bit, okay. but you've saved some lives. Now, I understand that this is not to decide where they're going to be, but I certainly hope that Route 34 is in contention, because the accidents on there, we live backed up to 34, and the accidents are unbelievable, and so is the speeding.
Route 34 will probably be, and it's only my guess, the police department actually is the ones who would through all their data and collection and everything, but my thoughts are Dogwood Road, Racebrook Road, Orange Center Road, Grassy Hill Road, and possibly around Baldwin, which is behind you over there. Those are your primary spots on Route 34. Certainly Dogwood Road, Racebrook, and Orange Center, those three, without a doubt.
We live right at the intersection of Baldwin, and you need
Yes.
one there, too.
Yes. So, the police will
I
decide.
just wanted
that-
to say that they work.
Okay, and you found out firsthand?
I am a graduate of them. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's one way to put it.
She gets you first couple.
I'm also a graduate, although I think it was really my husband that was the graduate. He was driving, and it was his car. But I want to know, did Middletown reduce it? Because I want to know if I get a refund.
No refunds,
No
I don't
refunds,
think.
huh? But it is true, you become much more conscious of how you're driving. Jody Deach, 601 Harborview Road. I'm here to speak in favor of adopting the ordinance towards the eventual implementation of red light and speed cameras. I grew up off of Route 34 near Dogwood. I still live in that area. I, too, hear the traffic. A lot of people talk about they can hear the traffic on 34. As kids, we actually would hang out watching the traffic for the Yale-Harvard games and also the Giants games, because there was a time when the Giants played at Yale Bowl.
That's right.
So I've been here a while. I also remember our bus driver trying to get out of Dogwood across 34 to get to the junior high, as it was called in those days, because there was no traffic light then. Unfortunately, nothing was done about that traffic light until a couple was killed, and then the traffic light went up. I hope we don't have to wait and have more deaths happen in order to take action. You know, I've heard concerns about privacy and tracking. My phone's tracking me all the time. I'm up and down 34 all the time. If I'm not doing anything wrong, I'm not really worried about the Chinese tracking me. They're going to be really bored knowing I go to work in the grocery store. My feeling is we really need to take action in order to save lives, and that's priority number one, so I hope that we adopt this ordinance. Thank you.
Actually, you keep coming. The only thing that will hold it up will be because it's a process through DOT and all, and when we initially talked with some of the vendors of possibilities with this, it could be as much as 4 to 6 months, and working with the state and others now adopting this. Well, so would I, but we'll see, just so you know. Yes.
I'm Doug Fenichel. I live at 143 Sunrise Hill Circle, right down the street from Alice. I'm in favor of installing the cameras in Orange, especially on Route 34. I know you've heard all the dry statistics. The 2021 Connecticut DOT study that showed that drivers on 995 slowed by as much as 18% when they knew that there were cameras in the area, or the 2017 Insurance Institute for Highway Safety study that, as Alice alluded to, says that over time, speed cameras make people drive more carefully, reduce their speeding by 59%, and that dropped the likelihood of injuries by 27%. But instead, I want to offer you a perspective from someone who lives on that western end of Route 34. I have 3 thoughts to share with you. First, if you want an interesting but totally unscientific perspective on the issue, just come sit on my deck any evening, especially in the summertime. You will hear the cars and the trucks racing up and down Route 34, the engines revving, the Jake brakes rumbling, sometimes brakes squealing as they try to stop for the light, and you might even hear the screech of brakes and the crunching of metal. Second, take a ride down 34, as I'm sure you have. Try to maintain a 45-mile-an-hour speed limit. Hell, go ahead and splurge, go 50. You're still going to get passed by cars and trucks going by you at significantly higher speeds. And be careful at the stoplights, because they're just suggestions. Finally, I'm a firefighter here in town. I am not authorized to speak on behalf of the fire department. This is my perspective, but that perspective is we seem to be responding more often to Route 34 lately and on more serious accidents. So I think slowing traffic down, enforcing the speed limits will reduce the dangers of higher speed crashes, and it'll be easier to stop at those traffic lights, and I won't have to hear the motors racing and the horns blaring and the occasional car crash. So please pass the ordinance and please enact the speed camera program. Thank you.
Next. Keith?
Keith Indeck, 554 Avon Drive. I may have a little bit of a different perspective. Full disclosure, my wife was almost killed, literally, no exaggeration. Over a week in the ICU, out of work for about 6 months, and it was because somebody made a conscious decision to run a red light. I don't think I need to say any more than that. She's not the only one, but I implore this board to do whatever can be done to support this ordinance and shepherd the process through. Thank you.
Next. Either are. Come on, Brad. No? You already submitted, but we'll let you go again.
Oh, thank you. Brad Marcus, 141 Omen Avenue. I'm fully in favor of this ordinance passing, getting the process started. I know working with the state, working with the DOT, it's going to take some time, but this step is the critical one for us to push it forward. Like everybody else has said, speed cameras work. I am also a graduate of speed camera getting caught. For those who want to know, in the Bronx, it's 12 miles an hour over the speed limit. So on the big roads.
And you're down there a lot.
And I'm down there a lot. And when I'm on those roads, I am very conscious now, ever since I got caught, because I don't want to get a ticket. I don't want to spend my money that way. I live right off of 34, and like everybody else has said, it's taking your life in your hands at certain intersections at certain times of the day. At Dogwood and 34, I'm scared to death when my daughter is driving around at that intersection, because you have to take a breath when the light turns green. You need to count to about 5 before starting to go, because there are people going to be flying through. Same thing on Racebrook. Those intersections are treacherous because people are just ignoring the laws. I appreciate the police involvement in this. I think Orange PD are fantastic. And thank you for coming, thank you for sharing your thoughts, and thank you for working with us to move this forward. Please pass this ordinance, guys. It's going to save lives. Thanks.
Thank you. Good, Brad. Next. You were up. There you go.
Hi, Charles Shetland, 375 Dogburn Lane. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm supportive of the cameras. Quick story, you tell me if I go over 2 minutes, because I have a tendency to
Untape
talk.
the bell.
Okay, you got the hammer.
Okay.
My wife and I just came back from England, 2-week trip over to England. And I got billed. We rented a car through Hertz. They sent me bills because we drove in the bus lane 2 times. Not cheap. They have cameras everywhere. In fact, the car we were driving, I don't know how this worked, but they have speed limit signs as you go through different towns. And we were in the rural area. And it will beep when you're exceeding the speed limit. It was fascinating, and it kept us from going over the speed limit. Still, it's first time driving on the left-hand side of the road. We drove in a couple of bus lanes, so whatever. In any event,
Whoops.
I think that this is a great way to change people's behavior. One concern I have is the privacy issue, as you were talking about. I would not want, because everybody's getting hacked, I would not want to see any material, any data going out beyond the Department of Transportation of the town of Orange. So that's my concern, but otherwise, I'm in full favor of this. Now, let me ask you, I have some concerns about traffic on my road, Dogburn Lane, and speeding. And I didn't know whether it would be appropriate to address that now or hold that for another meeting.
Well, there won't be a camera probably on Dogburn Lane.
No, I wouldn't think so.
But I think that many here would acknowledge the fact that a lot of traffic around the town on multiple roads is pretty quick a lot of the time. And people will come in and they'll complain that, you know, their road is terrible. It's got potholes and cracks and all, and they want it paved. And every time I tell them the same thing. I said, be careful what you wish for, because once it's paved, it's going to increase the speed. Road gets paved, next thing they're coming in, emailing or calling saying, people are speeding on our road. I'm like, it's one or the other. So your road, I think, was paved at one point there, and you've noticed increase in it. And plus, your road is a cut through, his road is the road that comes out by Popeyes and Ben's, and it ties to Spring Street, New Haven Avenue, Dogwood Road over that way. So he lives in a direct cut through over there. So I think that they understand it. I think that you have an opportunity to just express a brief thought, I'll give you.
Okay.
Because the police are sitting in the room.
Okay.
So-
Well, and I'll try to be as brief as I
Brief.
can. Officer LaPlante was very great after I went to the police commission meeting back in 2023, I believe it was, brought out the speed,
Trailer.
what do you call it?
Trailer.
Trailer, yes, with a printout. And the one thing he said, you know, they're not going over the 10-mile-per-hour limit too much. But what he was impressed by was the average volume per day, which over a range of, I think, it was a couple of days at least. Average volume per day was 1,529 vehicles.
There's a lot of people going to Popeyes.
That's a lot of people. Now, I was looking at the town plan of conservation and development, and they mentioned roadway overview and functional classifications, interstate, principal artery, minor arteries, and they mentioned, you know, Racebrook, Lambert, major collectors designed to carry traffic from local streets to arterial roadways. Average annual daily traffic is typically in the range of 1,500 to 8,000 vehicles per day. Now, local streets is a separate designation. These roads carry less volume but play a key role in the overall network. They provide access to adjacent land and are meant to carry low volumes of traffic at low speeds. Carry through traffic. These streets contain a high percentage of the overall street mileage but have the lowest level of through mobility while providing the highest level of access to the adjacent land uses. In Orange, this primarily includes the town's many residential streets. Well, clearly, based on this, you know, we're now we could be designated my road, which is a little over a third of a mile, could be designated a major collector. The speed limit on our road is 30 miles per hour. Now, I looked at some other roads. Dogwood Road, they have a speed sign powered by solar panels. Dogwood Road is a 25 mile per hour speed limit. Lambert Road is a 30 mile per hour, but also has a readout powered by solar panels. I was coming down from West Haven on Sawmill toward, between the police station and the thruway, down toward I-95, and that's a wide road. My road, Lambert Road, is Dogburn Lane, is a very narrow lane. And the road from West Haven, Sawmill Road, down toward I-95 is 30 miles per hour. So I would request that we could reevaluate the speed limit on Dogburn Lane. So,
Okay, well, with that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I would say, I would write a letter or request consideration of the traffic authority, which is handled through the police department.
Okay.
So now the chief and lieutenant have heard your thoughts, and if you contact them during the week, some week, maybe they can talk with you about that a little bit more.
that'd be great. Can I enter this into the record? Sure.
All right, very
Thank
good.
you.
All righty.
Evening. Happy holidays, everybody. Dan Fitzmaurice, 831 College Road. My family first shared our support for red light and speeding cameras back in October of 2023. We wrote a short email to our state representative, Mary Welander, for thanking her for voting yes for the state law that allows towns to install them. In fact, our entire delegation representing Orange voted yes on that law. With the frequency of crashes off Route 34 where we live, this issue is personal to us as our kids get close to driving age. More than a year later, in March of 2025, I reached out to the police department for an update. I was relieved to learn they were working hard to get ready to implement them. They told me the next step was the town needed to pass an ordinance. They'd in fact provided a sample one to the first selectman and the town attorney. The minutes from the traffic authority meeting that month in March confirmed that this happened. But when I reached out to Selectman Goldblatt about this, I found out the first selectman had not shared any of this information with the full board of selectmen at that time. And here we are, 9 months later to the day. And during this delay, I've heard over and over again from folks like many of you tonight that don't feel safe driving or walking on our roads. Automatic traffic enforcement safety devices are a proven tool to help. They're already helping in nearly a dozen towns across Connecticut and countless communities across the country and I guess around the world. And that's why I encourage you to vote yes on this ordinance tonight. And to be very clear on a couple of details, these devices only capture red light or speeding violations at very clearly marked locations with strict oversight from the state and privacy protections. They're not the same as license plate readers, which we already have installed throughout Orange. These scan every plate that passes by and are not clearly marked. These citations are also not a tax. State law requires actually that the town spend any revenue we receive from these citations on further road safety improvements in town. It can't go into the general fund. Also, as a note, the Department of Transportation is actually required to turn around the town's application within 60 days once we submit it. So that's a pretty fast turnaround time. And one last thing. As I mentioned in the beginning, I've been pushing to get answers and share information about this for a couple of years. Residents should not have to work this hard to get their locally elected representatives and paid town staff to move a public safety initiative, a life-saving initiative like this forward. Passing the ordinance tonight is in fact just the first step in the process. So I hope this Board of Selectmen ensures that we take these next steps with the urgency the situation demands and with the proactive communication that our residents deserve. Thank you.
Anybody? Oh, wait a minute, hold on. He was up first, so.
Good evening. Eric Meeson, 373 West River Road. First, I do want to address some of what Dan just touched on and also to correct information from last month's discussion. When I was talking with Selectman Goldblatt about the traffic cameras and brought up my initial concerns at last month's meeting, those concerns are very real and very present and are related to the cameras that Dan just mentioned that actually are already deployed in some locations in Orange and that I was specifically talking about having been recently deployed in Milford. The protections and information about those cameras is highly concerning and is a point which I would like to revisit at some point in the future. The plate reading cameras, the automated reading cameras, because those cameras, and you know, we heard some tonight about, you know, I don't have anything to hide, my cell phone tracks me already, and these things are slightly true. But it is important to know that for things like cell phone records, warrants are required. For things like the automated license plate reader cameras, that is a publicly searchable database that their bar to entry for who is allowed to query that database is relatively low, and involves not only US-based but also international people are able to access these databases. And that's something that does very much concern me and is not something that I think that the founders of this country would have appreciated in any way. Right? If you had told those people who were drafting the Fourth Amendment that governs unreasonable searches and seizures and other such actions, if you had told them that we were going to be installing government-run eyeballs that monitor us 24 hours a day, that would probably also be in the Fourth Amendment. That said, I did review, as you mentioned, the state statute on the red light cameras and the privacy protections and stuff that are there, and those are, you know, quite good. Those protections are not present in the automated license plate reader market in any way, shape, or form, because that is entirely run as a private market at the moment, and that data is being sucked up by the companies who run it. I do have great concerns about any sort of automated enforcement. You know, we've heard from people tonight who have, you know, friends and loved ones who have been injured in traffic accidents. I was injured in a traffic accident in high school. I got hit by a car as a pedestrian. I know full well what can happen when things go wrong with the way the traffic runs. I bounced my head off a windshield, lost almost a decade of my life in recovery. And I honestly still wouldn't trade it for automated enforcement. If you want to enforce things, put boots on the ground. We have an excellent police force. They can make judgment calls. They can monitor. They can monitor those side streets where there's occasional trouble. They can monitor main streets. They can monitor these other locations. But full-time automated enforcement is a dangerous precedent to start, and it's a dangerous precedent to continue to advance, because we continue to erode these small portions of our freedoms, small steps at a time, and that's not what I think that we really want out of this country. And I would just like to end with a slightly beleaguered quote from John Adams, but I believe that it is relevant, or at least it evokes the feeling which I have when we talk about all forms of automated enforcement, which is, it is more important that the innocents be protected than it is that guilt be punished. For guilt and crimes are so frequent in this world that they cannot all be punished. But if innocence itself is brought to the bar and condemned, perhaps to die, then the citizen will say, whether I do good or whether I do evil is immaterial, for innocence itself is no protection. And if such an idea as that were to take hold in the minds of the citizen, that would be the end of security whatsoever. And I think a better way to enforce is with boots on the ground with our very competent police force, rather than continuing to add more layers of automated monitoring that we're already fighting in other areas. You know, you can look and see the fights that the ACLU and things are looking at for protections and privacy protections for all of us that keep losing them to things. And it is problematic. But I do appreciate that the law specifically on the red light and stops on speed cameras does have some of that protection baked in, which is preferential. And I'd like to discuss the Alper cameras further at a different point, but that's not what's on the table tonight. So thank you.
There will be more discussions. However, though, as this this progresses. And there's another item on here potentially about plate readers also, further into the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
So you're aware. Yes, sir.
Ryan McGuire, 1014 Rainbow Trail. Like a lot of people here, I live close to Route 34, more on the Derby side. So I do hear all of the traffic. You hear a lot of motorcycles, loud cars. I've been on Facebook. You hear about all the crashes that happen. What I think, but I also grew up here. So I know 34 has always been a busy road. It's a highway. It's a high access highway. And I think that a large part of the problem with that comes directly from that. If you look at a lot of the intersections along Route 34, which I think is everyone's main concern here, and I think it is easy to point out that's the road that has the worst speeding issues in town, those roads don't intersect at a 90-degree angle. That's been proven to be a more dangerous intersection, and I think that that's something that also needs to be considered. If you look at Racebrick Road, it's a significant angle. I don't know how difficult it is to do something about that, obviously, but if we're going to go to this, I just want to make sure we look at solutions that involve changing the roads and the way that they work rather than just jumping into these cameras, because I agree with him. This is just step one. I worry about what the next thing is. I agree people need to be stopped from speeding. I do think more police on the road to help with that is a better solution than cameras. Yeah, I just think that we have a lot of roads, there's a lot of access, maybe limiting access some of these roads. I know, Dan, you talk about you live, and a couple other people live over near the junior high. There's a lot of roads that come out there, a lot of access points, a lot of areas where accidents can happen. If some of those roads are limited access to 34, preventing, look at Mapledale Road. I don't know how many of you are familiar with that road. That road has access to cross 34 with no traffic control signal, just a stoplight. That shouldn't be. There should just be no way to cross 34 there. It just doesn't make sense. The road needs to be reviewed. It's egregious. I know a lot of people in town know Wayne, who passed away at an accident on Dogwood Road. That road should not cross at that angle. That's the problem on these roads. In the speeding, a lot of the crashes you hear about, I know there's been a few fatalities at Racebrick Road in the past year. One common thread on several of those crashes is they're minors driving these cars. They're stolen vehicles. You're not going to fix that problem by giving them a ticket because they don't own the car. They've stolen it. There are bigger problems here causing some of these crashes than just us driving, 5-10 miles an hour over the speed limit on a daily basis. There's other problems here that need to be addressed before these cameras. I think it's a great tool. I'm not against the ordinance, but I think before these cameras get put in place, it needs to be evaluated what's causing these issues, because this is a change. This hasn't just snuck up on us all of a sudden. This has been a gradual change. And I think since the pandemic, there's been a lot more theft of vehicles. There's been a lot more just nefarious activity. Look at the street takeovers we see. We see it throughout the community. You see just bad people doing stuff in our town. I don't think it's the people in our town that are speeding and causing a lot of these accidents. It's people cutting through. Route 34 comes from New Haven down to the valley, Waterbury. It's just, I think that I just wanted to make sure that we think about it before we place these cameras. And I think that's part of the ordinance, but I want to make sure that we look at the infrastructure before we jump to this solution.
Thank you.
Kathy McGuire, 27 Russell Avenue. I share the opinion, that was my son, and the gentleman before. I am not against, moving forward with this. There are so many fingers to this, and everybody thinks, do it fast. This is taking too long, let's just put it in place. This is massive. Just like Ryan said, our data is out there everywhere. And I don't think this is the answer. I'm concerned about so many things with these cameras. I'm concerned about the efficacy. Read the research. These cameras just become a permanent spot that everyone's aware of. We all operate and we drive in a System 1 thinking mode. We are fast. We're not even thinking about it. We will learn where these cameras are, we'll slow down a little, and we'll go through, we won't even think about it. As Ryan said, we need to find other ways to calm the speeding. It's not through cameras. I know a lot of these changes. Think about over by the Yale Bowl. Now, I know this isn't possible everywhere, but they put in a rotary. You cannot speed down Chapel and Yale because they make you turn. Beautiful. You have no choice, you can't speed. I know that's not possible on Route 34. But in my soul, I don't think this is the answer. We all want safety. We don't want anyone to die. We know 34 is a problem. And I trust in this board, and I know they are not rushing this because they don't rush anything that's important. And I'm tired of them. I'm tired of our officials, our board members being beat up that they're not going fast enough. They are doing their due diligence, and this is an important matter. And let them decide. Let them do their job. Let them figure this out. I know they're going to do the right thing. And it may be very well that, yep, cameras are the answer. And I will agree with them, and I will go with their thoughts. Let them do the work. Let's stop beating them up, telling them they're not going fast enough. They're doing the good work. Thank you.
Ken?
Good evening. I'm Kenneth Lenz, live at 382 Ridge Road here in town. I'm speaking in favor of the ordinance, and primarily because, to be quite candid about it, we have no choice but to either walk, drive, pick up a school bus, walk our pets on these roads, and I want them to be as safe as possible. And frankly, I don't feel safe walking on Ridge Road. I don't feel safe walking on many of the roads here. And frankly, I often don't feel safe driving at speed limit because people behind me don't drive in the speed limit, and they come up hard on me. No one has the legal right to speed. And I think that they should not be asking for some sort of indulgence to get away with it. Our police do the best they can with many duties, including traffic enforcement. They also spend a lot of time stopping medical emergencies, responding to medical emergencies, which are also a very important obligation of theirs. I don't want to see us hire more police to chase after the speeders. By the way, Ridge Road is a bad place for speeders. We hear them, particularly at night, going at speeds double the 30-mile-an-hour speed limit, blowing through four-way stop signs. Fortunately, the traffic is lighter. Nobody has killed themselves at this location for a while, but there was a very bad accident not that long ago, knocked a fire hydrant off its pinnings, somehow managed to get away even though they left the front end of their truck on our road. But you know, these things have to be dealt with, and if that requires a lot of people to get tickets, citations, and pay some money on it, it's going to change their behavior. While I agree it's not the solution, it is a solution, a tool to get us back into a zone where there's more compliance and people walking on the roads can feel safe again to use the roads as they're intended to for both pedestrians and for traffic. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Muddett?
Michael Muddett, 904 Trillium Court. I just wanted to add one thing. I do greatly respect everything that's said here tonight and agree with a lot of it. I'm not in favor of a lot of, cameras on the ground and everything like that. But I also worry about boots on the ground as a solution to this problem. I've had the displeasure being off of 34 on my road of watching a police stop on 34, and 34 does not have a very good shoulder the whole distance of it, and watching a police officer try to give a ticket to somebody while traffic is speeding past and not respecting that safety zone they should have greatly concerns me. So I think this is not, I have a lot of privacy concerns, and I appreciate that this ordinance has a lot of those protections, but I do also believe this is an important tool to keep our police officers safe, because if we can get some enforcement of the speed limit without having to put an officer in the middle of Route 34, I think it's a very good thing for our community as a whole. That's it. Thank you.
there anybody else before the board speaks a little bit more? Nope, okay. So we've heard a lot of thoughts on all sides of the aisle on this. I have some pluses and minuses and understandings of some. While I don't think we are, maybe with time, if this does happen, to propose it on local roads, as Mr. Lenz was speaking to, maybe a possibility in the future. I think being that the DOT is involved, I don't know if the requirements are that it is on only DOT-controlled roads, or if the town would have latitude beyond that. But also, there's been many things said about this that, that it's going to stop, and somebody spoke to the I think it was Ryan McGuire, about the cars being stolen and all, and that's 100% correct, too. And this isn't instant. When somebody goes through a light, there isn't a policeman stationed out anywhere that's going to, pull out of a side street and pull that car over. And, we had a really bad accident. It's probably a couple of years ago already, Raymond, that one at Orange Center and 34, when those young brothers stole that BMW just over the line in Milford. And they were going at such a high rate of speed as they got to that intersection at Orange Center and 34, and they were on Orange Center, that their speed dropped down to, as I recall, in the mid to upper 70s, was on the recorder, as they plowed into a tractor trailer which went into Jane Opper's front woods, and the BMW went across Orange Center and flipped over, and the older brother, who was driving the car, jumped into their buddy's car and took off, and he left his 14-year-old brother for dead under that car in Jane Opper's side yard there on Orange Center. So a camera isn't going to solve something like that. We just had, a few weeks ago, a man coming up the wrong way on Route 34 and plow into a vehicle with, I believe, 4 ladies in it, head on. The camera's not going to stop that. He came all the way from Forest Road in West Haven on the wrong side of the road. How the hell he got all the way from Forest Road in West Haven to Baldwin Road in Orange on the wrong side of the road, Route 34, and nobody called it in, nobody saw it, nobody said anything, and he plowed into that vehicle with those women in it, is just amazing. But he died. The women were badly banged up, some worse than others, but a camera won't solve that. The fire department had to respond, I think last week, when they were redoing the ramps coming off the Parkway. I begged them to put stop signs at the end of the ramp, and they said, oh no, it had stop signs while they were doing the construction. The construction was over, they went back to yield signs. The fire department, the police are there quite often because of the rear enders that happen at those exits off of the Parkway. But the other day they were there, they had one, car was here, another guy came off so fast and all. Doug, I don't know if you were at that call, but he actually he rode up and on the side of the car next to him. The firemen had to put props so they could get everything straightened out. The camera won't solve that. But the camera will solve the chronic repeaters who travel Route 34, whether for work, pleasure, or what have you. And I think those intersections that I spoke of, Dogwood, Dogwood, Racebrook, Orange Center, Grassy Hill, believe it or not, out of all the intersections, it's the smallest one of all, isn't as bad. We've had worse ones at Baldwin Road now than we've had there. I asked the state to consider realigning, Ryan, just so you know, the intersection at Orange Center and 34. Their big holdup was they didn't know how to address the telephone pole that's right in the middle of the island on the far side by the Catholic store there. I said, well, why don't you put a pole on that side and a pole on that side and bridge the span? We'll have to look into it. So that they could get that, so you could get turn lanes and all there. So that was the DOT on that one. As far as Mapledale, I do believe the time has come for Mapledale to be closed for cross-traffic. I've seen it. Ray LaPlante will tell you, he's been there. Frank Esposito probably years ago had been there. That intersection gets more crashes than need, and our traffic is getting worse. And I really think that crossover, if you're coming out of Mapledale there to go towards the Parkway or Derby, should be closed. So those are things that we have worked on and continue to work on with the state. So those are a few of my thoughts on this. I think you can figure out what I'm thinking from that. I mean, you're not going to see cameras on, well, I shouldn't say, I don't think you're going to see cameras on, like Ken was talking about, Ridge Road type of situation. But I think on that main road, it is definitely something that needs to be strongly thought of as part of the process. It is going to have some impacts on the police department, on management, on manpower, process. If somebody decides to fight it and it has to go to court, there's review process of the tapes, and somebody has to represent, the town in that situation and all. But if it helps in the overall picture, I think it's something that we can consider. And as this goes, there's other parts to it that are going to be back at this table or at the police department's table. So those are my thoughts. Who's next?
Quickly, point of order. Do we have to close the public hearing, or is this comments on the public
Well,
hearing?
I'm making my comment as part of the public hearing.
Just wanted to make sure that we're not.
No, we're still in the public hearing as far as I thought. In case anything is said and then somebody wants to question it, they can only question it when we're in the public hearing. So if there are no more, Mitchell, just
Well-
under the bell.
We're not at the point of voting yet and discussing it, but I will say that the people that have reached out and made their feelings known about desiring to see these things passed have been very prevailing, in my opinion, not just because there's more people that spoke that way, but because their arguments, I felt, were very compelling. But in getting to some of the things that both Kathy and Ryan brought up earlier, some of what this will yield for us, there's two things. One is we have to put together a traffic plan before we can even install the cameras. Second thing, so that's going to help us identify areas that, we may not be thinking of, but the police department is, that are areas where they feel that these cameras will help a situation. As you say, Jim, it's not going to solve certain problems, but it will solve others. And the second thing is, there will be revenue brought in from this. But the revenue that's brought in from this, I believe, and Attorney Weaver can help us with this, I believe has to be designated for traffic improvements and transportation issues. So among other things, we can get very creative with that, I'm sure. Among other things, that might help us if we have funding that'll help us to reconfigure certain intersections that are on our dime as opposed to the state's. Most of the ones you talk about are state roads and would require state funding. Sometimes the state funding requires a certain percentage from the town, and that would help us as well. So those are my thoughts from what we've heard so far, and I appreciate everyone who's written to us and everyone who came out tonight to speak to us about this, no matter what your feelings were. Thank you.
It does say costs associated with the cameras also in those areas. I was wondering if we could use it, say, if you got revenue in, if you could use it on Pine Tree Peck Lane or something, but with that, it sounds like it's kind of good.
three broad categories that the revenue can be used for. Improve transportation mobility, invest in transportation infrastructure, and as the first selectman was just saying, pay the costs associated with the cameras.
So, a fine line there.
Those first two sound broad enough.
Oh,
Sorry.
oh, and I know it's 4 paragraphs long, but could you read the privacy component? And would there be a way for us to either put it on the Orange website so that the entire town could have access to the privacy component of the statute?
Sure. Where's that? Oh, you have to come up here only so the microphones can pick you up while he's looking at that.
All right, so while the gentleman's walking up, and I'll wait, I'll read it after his comments, but I'll be reading the model private policy from the DOT, not.
Yeah, just one question on what you just said as well, is that the revenue can be used towards the costs associated with the camera systems. How are these proposed camera systems expected to be paid for? Because some models of these camera systems are, depending on which contractor you use and other such thing, some models of these camera systems can be funded by the local government, and some models of these camera systems are funded with revenue sharing with a certain percentage of the income generated from the tickets going back to the companies. The models that are subject to revenue sharing, of course, raise additional concerns because there has been implications in some situations, and certainly some, at least it opens up questions, that these companies do things which can modify the behavior and enforcement of those camera systems, with things like minutely shortening delays that can be different on cameras in target areas and things like that. And something else that I do also just want to mention about red light cameras specifically, that it's very important to make sure that we don't do. It is a very unethical thing. There have been many jurisdictions that have deployed red light cameras that have subsequently been found to have shortened the yellow light duration at the intersections with the red light cameras relative to the yellow light durations at other places in town to generate additional revenue from the camera at that location, because the yellow is a little bit shorter than you expected. And it's important that we make sure that if we do deploy something like this, that we have no modifications to any of the way that the traffic is behaving, so that the things are enforced in a way that is equitable from when they were installed and not necessarily with a shift that has happened later in some instances.
Okay, I'm gonna let Owen read the privacy policy part, then I'm gonna have to ask the police for that next part, because I don't have that answer.
So I can say the act allows municipalities to enter into an agreement with a vendor to design, install, operate, maintain the cameras. The fee cannot be based on the number of citations issued, though, or the fines paid. The police department could probably comment better, but I believe they get a percentage of the citation. So, with respect to the model privacy policy that was promulgated by DOT in January, personally identifiable information about a person who is alleged through the aid of an ATESD, that's Automated Traffic Enforcement Safety Device, to have committed a traffic violation is protected information, with exceptions noted below. While information and data gathered from, I'm just going to say devices for the sake of brevity, is subject to disclosure under Connecticut's Freedom of Information Act, no personally identifiable information may be disclosed. Personal identifiable information as defined under Section 14-307F of the General Statutes includes, but is not limited to, the motor vehicle owner's address, telephone number, license plate number, photograph, bank account information, credit card number, debit card number. I'll just, as an aside, the legislation allows for payment of the citation through electronic means, so that's probably why they have the financial information listed here, or the data, time, location, or direction of travel on a highway. No such personal identifying information is permitted to be disclosed, stored, or retained by a municipality or a vendor unless the disclosure is made in connection with or retention is necessary for the charging, collection, and enforcement of the fines imposed pursuant to an ordinance adopted according to the legislation. Violation data and images should be electronically encrypted at the time of their capture to prevent unauthorized access or tampering. All violation evidence, whether personal identifying information or not, should be securely stored and managed according to standard rules and requirements for the security and preservation of legal evidence. Only authorized and trained program staff should have access to the data. Sensitive personal information such as social security numbers, excuse me, should not be used or linked with names or should never be printed on violation notices mailed to recipients. Furthermore, any identifying data for non-infracting vehicles, such as license plates information, should not be stored. Last paragraph. Within 30 days after any fine is collected or there has been a resolution of a hearing conducted for the alleged traffic violation, whichever is the latter, except a municipality or vendor may retain a portion of the personal identifying information for the limited purposes of determining whether a person committed a second or subsequent violation of the municipal ordinance. The municipality or vendor shall destroy the personal identifying information not later than 1 year after the date of such person's most recent violation. That is the model DOT privacy policy.
Chief.
I will speak to a couple of the concerns, and hopefully this answers some of the questions that are out there still. And thank you for everyone for coming out, and those of you that submitted your comments online through emails. We really do appreciate your input, and that's important, and that this process of you having a say in this is vitally important. So when I mentioned our mission statement earlier, it's also part of our mission statement that we are always going to act with professionalism and integrity. These companies, the one that we have been dealing with so far in assisting us in this process, and I understand that might not be the company that the selectmen decide to go with, but I have confidence in that company that they're going to act with integrity, and they are not going to misuse that information. They are paid through the fines, so the cost of their cameras and maintaining the cameras are through the fines. It is no cost to the municipality. We will ensure that as part of the contract of whoever we deal with, that there's safeguards in place, that things like changing the cycle of traffic lights isn't going to happen. We would never condone that. We would never authorize that. We would never want to be partnered with any company that would do something like that. Your information is private. If you are going through one of these cameras and you're not violating the law, you're just a ghost going through that camera. No one cares about your car went through that camera unless you violated the law somehow. So the privacy is in place. It's built into the law when the state of Connecticut decided to do this. I am confident in the privacy of the LPRs as well. I'll save my remarks on that till we get to that point. But some of the concerns that actually did not come up tonight that I've heard in the past is this is Big Brother. We're not trying to spy on anyone. We're trying to protect people. This is another way of taxing us. We are not looking to generate revenue. We are looking to improve safety and save lives. The goal is once the 30 days grace period is out there, that by law, 30 days before tickets start getting issued. Between that, the public education campaign that we intend to initiate, the fact that these are becoming more and more prolific, other communities around us are looking at it, are going to be implementing it in the near future. Some already have. This is going to be second nature to people. They're going to understand it. And the amount of violations that we have currently is going to go way down. It's going to go way down. So the goal is not to generate money. The goal is to gain compliance. We will generate some money, especially at first. That could be used for further safety improvements in whatever form that takes. That may have to be used to put some officers on overtime to review some of these violations, especially at first when we get inundated with it. So these are all part of the challenges that we're going to face with the implementation of this. And I agree that this is not something you rush into and that we move slowly with this and carefully. People have talked about my insurance is going to go up. It's a civil fine. Your insurance isn't going to go up when you get one of these tickets. If you get stopped by a police officer, that fine is going to be a lot more than $50. It's $50 for a first violation, it's $75 for a subsequent violation. You get stopped by a police officer, it's going to be a lot more than that. Your insurance will go up, and it will be points against your license. These civil fines are not points against your license. Your insurance isn't going to go up. I believe personally that we're all going to benefit from it in that, think of all the money that we spend just on DUI crashes and the amount of money we spend on alcohol and alcohol-related problems, loss of work time, your automobile insurance, your medical insurance, your medical bills. Theoretically, all of these things are going to be lessened by less crashes and people driving more safely. And that's what the towns and the cities that have implemented this have found out. Speed bumps don't work. This doesn't work. That doesn't work. This appears to be working. People are driving slower. They're experiencing less crashes. And they are saying, despite the chaos at first, ultimately it is working and it is making their community safer. So these are all important points to make. Even though they weren't verbalized tonight, these are some of the things that I've heard, some of the questions about this. So I'm not sure if that answers everyone's questions. Frank, I see you got your hand raised.
Yeah, I don't know.
You can ask if it's a short question.
Bob, just a clarification. You used the term, if you don't commit any violations and you go through the camera, you're a ghost. But does that mean, is that a term you're using, or is that you can still be identified even if you didn't trigger anything?
You're not going to be identified, Frank. There's always, it's taking a picture and it's taking video of vehicles going through there. We're not going to be alerted to that unless you violated the law. So we're not going to get.
You would have access to it even if I didn't, is what I'm asking. I'm just asking.
No, we don't. We wouldn't routinely access that.
Only the triggered ones.
Only the triggered ones come to us. You know, the LPR is a little bit different. We could access that, but we're only going to get what triggers to us, and basically that goes through a vetting process with the vendor, and then they send that to us. Hey, we believe this to be a violation, and then we have to verify that it is a violation. Yes.
So to you, there it goes, but does the company that's doing this see every car that goes through? They get a record in their database?
I believe they do, but again, they are looking for violations.
But doesn't that raise the concern of, I mean, look what happened with Yale and data breaches. And
That's the LPR cameras that we already have that I was talking about.
more and more every day you get all these letters in the mail about data breaches. This company has the data and they're susceptible to these breaches.
They,
Not a ghost.
all of the companies have safeguards in place that meet the highest standards for protection.
There's the problem there, if it is all recorded.
They're all breached. We're not concerned about, okay, they recorded us. We're concerned about this vendor that, of course, has the best intentions, but they all get breached.
All they're getting is your license plate.
And our payments,
That's-
and our credit card, and our license plate, and our address, our
Where
billing.
you are, where you go on a daily basis.
Because we get paid.
Yeah, they're going to have, you're making some very valid, no. You're making some very valid comments, passionate comments as well. But if I'm going to ask if you're going to do that, we're in agreement here. Come on up so that everybody at home in TV land can hear it, because you are making some very valid concerns.
Are you done, Chief?
Come on up. Charles?
Yeah, I'm done. Just one other point I'll make regarding engineering. That is a lengthy process, especially when you're dealing with the state of Connecticut. For instance, I asked for a traffic light at Route 34 in Baldwin Road because of the crash history there. That took, I want to say, about 8 years for that traffic light to get installed. So engineering and working with the state is not an easy process. It's not a quick process. It's very, very lengthy.
Come on up here if you're going to speak, so that everybody at home, because it's very passionate.
Just one thing to what you said, Chief, which is, a little bit concerning when it comes to enforcement is I do understand that it may be viewed in some manner as a benefit that these are civil fines, and I understand what you're saying is that if an officer pulls you over, it's going to be a higher fine and it's going to have points on your license and affect your insurance. That's the real penalty, is if you get pulled over and there's an actual consequence in the form of points on your license and an increased insurance rate. And if you do this repeatedly, losing your license or becoming uninsurable. If the only fine is a civil penalty, you haven't created a new law. All you have done is created a law for those who can't afford to pay for it. And those who don't care will continue to violate the law because it's only $50. And there are many people, I'm sure we can all think of a few around us, who don't care if their commute into the office in the morning costs them an extra $50 because they'd rather go fast in their expensive car and drive into the office. And those kinds of things can just become a law that is not proportionately applied because there are no real consequences that apply to those in a certain bracket. In this case, if you happen to be in a very high income bracket, it doesn't apply to you because it's only $50. And so the real enforcement comes with a point on a license and an interaction with an officer and real enforcement.
Just to respond to that quickly, this equipment isn't replacement of police officers. It's a force multiplier. And there hasn't been any evidence to this point that people are going to disregard a $50 fine, that it's not going to be effective. On the contrary, the states that have already done this, the municipalities in Connecticut that have already done this, have found that they are gaining compliance by those cameras being there. They're not seeing multiple repeat offenders because they're not worried about the amount of the fine. There's just no evidence for that at this point in time. And again, it is not to replace our police officers, but it's a force multiplier. Some of you pointed out very appropriately that we have a multitude of responsibilities, not just traffic enforcement. We are the medical first responder for the town of Orange. We are averaging about 5 medicals a day. That number has gone up consistently year after year after year, and it's still headed north. That takes up our time. Stopping a car takes up time. Writing a ticket takes up time. Writing a report takes time. We write about 6,000 reports a year on average. We go to a lot of calls. All of you have expressed concerns about Route 34. We share those concerns. That's one of the prime targets that we're going to be looking at. But you also call my office, you call the first selectman's office with your individual neighborhoods. People are speeding through my neighborhood. People are disregarding the stop sign. People, I've got a high volume of vehicles going through my little cut-through street. Some of those things we can't do anything about, but we try to address all of the concerns, but we could get spread pretty thin with all of our responsibilities. A camera at a traffic light, a speeding camera, that's 24 surveillance, 24/7. That doesn't relieve us of the responsibility to patrol those areas and do our own enforcement. It's just a force multiplier. and a very efficient one.
Okay. Charles wanted to speak. Hold on. Charles, he was up to speak first.
Since you're being a gentleman, let me go first. As somebody I mentioned before that got the ticket, it did change my driving. I hope it changed my husband's. And I use my cruise control a lot more on 34 because I admit I have a tendency to go too fast on 34. So to control my own speeding habit, I put it on cruise control. So I do think it has, and no, I don't want to spend $50, and I believe it's incremental if you get additional ones to go to work every day. Maybe I could afford it, maybe I can't, but I'm sorry, it will change people's driving, and it's proven that. And I don't think that the fact that a few people who might drive Maseratis to work don't care, the rest of us do, and if it's going to save one life, it's worth it.
Can I answer that as well? Again, Charles Shetland, 375 Dogburn Lane. First of all, I just want to thank the board, and I want to thank everybody who turned up and all those who were watching OGAT. This is really cool. This is participatory democracy. And it's a wonderful thing to behold. One question is, and this may be for you, Chief, are these recording devices constantly recording, or are they triggered by someone exceeding a speed limit?
I think we're talking about two separate things. The at-set, the violation
Go ahead.
are, Raymond Plant Police Department.
Come on up, Raymond, and talk to him. You get your 2 minutes in time here.
Ray was the man who came out and put my
Yes, sir.
speeding device up.
Nice
Thank
to
you.
finally meet you.
Nice to see you again.
I've spoken to many of you via email or phone calls. Well, here we are. So to answer your question, I think we're talking about two different things, and so the answer will depend. The LPRs, which are on the agenda for later, I understand, those record all the time. They track every car that goes through, and it just is stored for a database. If needed, we could access it. If not, it goes away.
Yeah.
The speed enforcement, red light enforcement cameras are only triggered by the violation.
Okay.
So that's, and then most of the vendors, there are several vendors that are in this market, but everybody handles it differently. A lot of them use some sort of a review process that'll automatically eliminate fire trucks and police cars and ambulances and stuff like that that violate those things. Everybody else gets sent to the police department for review. And what we found, I mean, obviously the police department is for this technology. In my research and doing some of the due diligence with other departments that have rolled this out, you get flooded with violations. If anybody should be against it, it should be us. We're going to be overwhelmed with work initially. But it peters out because people get the message and they stop violating the either the speeds or the red lights. It's very clearly marked.
It's posted a distance before that.
yeah.
Also, there's signs installed
But it's
prior
not-
to.
But it's not a constant camera that, records for 7 days and gets
Well,
stored.
it records, but it triggers on the ones that are exceeding what the set number is.
So I guess my question is, it's only triggered when the sensor senses that a car is exceeding.
So just as an example, you might understand that radar trailer I put on your road.
Yeah.
I have the same ability to trigger that, or to have that trigger and take a photo of cars that pass, violations. The state secrets I'm letting out here. So that radar trailer, if I say I want a picture of everybody going 20 miles an hour over the speed limit, it'll snap a picture. But it has to detect the car, see the speed, turn the camera on and snap the picture. It rarely works very well, but sometimes it does. And in that case, you know, we do have a photograph of a violation. Unfortunately, with that device is not good enough, the resolution is not good enough to get a plate off the car, but you could see it's a red Mustang or something like that sometimes. Similar with this automatic traffic safety device, where it would have to register a violation, turn the camera on and snap a picture of that.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay.
One other thing. I'm sorry. To the attorney. You were talking about privacy policy, and there were a lot of should not do this, should do that, should not do that. It sounds a little, okay, you know, you shouldn't, you know, have too much sugar, but that doesn't mean it's,
Right, tell that to my kids, but.
yeah, mine,
Right.
yeah.
Again, this is the DOT model policy that is the bare minimum that a town has to adopt if they want to implement this program.
Okay, so the town has the ability to more concretize that?
Yes.
Say, we
Yes,
will.
That's the minimum.
Yes.
Thank you.
Board ready to make a thought on this?
Ryan McGuire, 1014 Rainbow Trail. So one other point I want to bring up to, I think, is it Charlie that lives on Dogburn? I know that road is a cut through. You know, we've used it to get the post road. We live on Russell Ave. Another thing I worry about with this is people avoiding the road and cutting through our side neighborhoods. And to Jim's point, when we have these nice new paved roads, people speed. So just another thing to watch out for with this. I'm not necessarily against this. I want to make sure we do it right if we're going to do it. The data concerns I have a big concern about, and you know, you can say it's top of the line system, this and that, but companies get hacked all the time. There's nefarious things going on, people trying to break into stuff left and right. Where I worked before, we got hacked. You know, it happens, but I just want to make sure we consider all these angles. And yeah, it's people will avoid the road and go a different way if they know there's speed cameras sometimes. So
For
just
sure.
another thing to consider.
All right. Is there a motion to close? Oh. Sure.
Hi, good evening, everybody. This is Lauren Gray, 205 Wilson Road. I am here to say I do support the automatic traffic enforcement safety devices. Anything that can keep our town safer is a bonus in my eyes. And I've been watching for the past hour on OGAT. There's a ton of people watching. I've seen all of your remarks, and I just want to thank everyone for your passion, whether you're for this or against this. This is how democracy works. So thank you all for participating and bringing your voices to the Board of Selectmen, and I hope you'll consider this. Thanks.
Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second. Who made it? Mitch made it? Okay. Okay, motion is closed on that. Is there a motion to be made? Well, they're all leaving before we're done here. Is there a motion to be made on this to vote? Yeah.
I'll do so. Wait.
And then discuss?
Yeah, obviously, we'll have
Yeah.
a motion and then potential discussion, obviously. So to have that start, I will make a motion to approve accepting the proposed ordinance to amend the Code of Town of Orange to add Article 6, Automated Traffic Enforcement Safety Devices to Chapter 366.
Second.
Any discussion of the board? Seeing,
Just to say that, as was said by a few people, I do appreciate the number of people that came out tonight, the number of people that took the time to write to us. Haven't seen this many emails on one subject for a long time. It obviously is something that sparks interest in the townspeople. And I think it's something that will be for the benefit of the town. Without reiterating a lot of what people said tonight, I would like to say that also I'm encouraged by the support of our police department, and I'd like to see us pass this. And then we've got several other ways to go before we actually put cameras in certain places. So this is just a start, but I think we don't get to that point if we don't start now. So I support the ordinance.
Other comments? If not, all
Yep.
those in.
No, I support the endeavors. I believe that public safety is the most important thing that a town can offer its residents. I am concerned about potential data breaches, so I would encourage us to go to, when we draft our privacy policy, that we have some good teeth in it, and we get some good advice on how to do that to truly, protect our residents and their privacy. But I support the ordinance.
No other? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Unanimous, minus Mr. Shanley. Okay, next item, public participation. Public participation is for any item up to 2 minutes per speaker that is not an agenda item. We're all, he's coming up behind you.
Oh, he's still behind me? I have to go first, please.
Sure.
Okay. All right, Frank, go ahead.
It's getting closer to my bedtime. Real quick, because on a different topic, thanks again, everybody, for their time and patience with this. I know you guys will do the right thing at the end of the day. One other thing that I do want to bring up, because we are talking about, and we have been talking about revisions and charter changes, I would encourage this board, as well as the police department, to strongly revisit our door-to-door solicitation practices, because it's getting out of control. With COVID and people working at home, I have a daughter that works very hard, and her home office is right at the doorbell. I have no trespassing, no soliciting, no whatever you could think of under the earth signs. They still get violated. If you make it to my doorbell, and this is my doorbell, I have no soliciting, no trespassing, they still ring the bell. And everybody who knows me knows I'm not the nicest guy when you do something like that to me. I've called the police department many of times, and you've heard Chief Gagné say tonight, they've got a lot of things to do. It's clear, correct me if I'm wrong, simple trespass, 53A-110, am I correct? And the element of that is what? Simply, you're somewhere where you don't belong, okay? So Milford, Derby, West Haven, and now Woodbridge has a very robust solicitation policy, and I hope that you guys would look at it, because excuse me, I lost my train of thought for a second, but I know my time's going. If you don't do something about it, you're just going to encourage people to ring the bell and keep coming, because we don't enforce anything. And I would appreciate it if it can get relooked at, revisited, and in today's thing with technology and AI, they can register to solicit online. The town, the police chief can, and the department can, and this board can come up with conditions, and maybe we can even attach to that people that don't want anyone on the property. Because I constantly get solar solicitors because my roof is exposed, and just because they Google it and they knock on my door and tell me they have the right to be there. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just in response to Frank's comments, I just want to let the board know, I do have Assistant Chief Martins looking at this right now. He's taken all of those recent ordinances that have passed, and he's going to summarize that for me. And Owen, at some point, I'll be sending that up to you. We're keeping you busy, I know, but we are taking a look at that as we speak.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Good evening. I am the latest in a long line of selectmen to continuously serve on the pension board for the past 60 years. During my more than 2 decades on the pension board, I have proudly worked with great volunteers who have moved employees from the defined benefit to defined contribution plan, stabilized our costs, improved our providers, reduced our discount rate, and are leading us to a fully funded plan. In my full-time position as the Town of Guilford Human Resources Director, I'm not only the pension administrator, but have spoken at several statewide conferences and classrooms about pensions and alternative retirement plans. And later this evening, I'll give my regular pension board report to this board. That is why last week I was shocked when I didn't receive my reappointment letter, but rather my "thank you for your service to the pension board. I have decided not to reappoint you" letter. I thought that I had a good working relationship with the first selectman, so I gave Jim a call and asked for an explanation. He said that during the campaign, my party wanted change, and he was going to provide me with that change. The pension board is a great 5-member team led by Eric Henlon and has always acted in a nonpartisan manner. Less than 1 month ago, in his inaugural address, First Selectman Zioli complimented his opponents and spoke of another great team, the members of the Board of Selectmen, even calling out Shanley and Goldblatt as completing that team that looks out for what's good for the town of Orange. No one is irreplaceable, not me nor anyone else on the board. However, I am saddened that there is now retribution towards political adversaries on the Board of Selectmen. And since I am not being replaced by another selectman, which I thought was a pension board requirement, if one of my colleagues accepts such a position, the first selectman will continue the breakup of a great team that has served this town so well. As for me, I'm not going anywhere. I will provide any guidance that the pension board would like, because I refuse to put party politics over what is best for the town of Orange. Thank you.
Anybody else? No? Okay. We only have a couple things at year end. We have to remind people from Mr. Foyer to prepare, what's he say? Prepare for winter weather now. Protect your mailbox with a batter board, which is a piece of plywood, 2 posts, or some other creation that you can come up with, because the highway department does not replace mailboxes or posts unless run over by the truck. If you have a yard that is on a curve, bend, or straightaway that might not be identifiable, he says to put in snow stakes to prevent lawn damage. But both of those are, I don't know, last time we had a real cold start like this, it was a very warm winter, so I'm hoping that it's going to be a warm winter. Maybe not. Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, or whatever holiday you celebrate. As we move through this month, the town hall, the library, and the transfer station will close at 1 p.m. on December 24th, and will be closed on Thursday, December 25th, and Thursday, January 1st. The town pool will be closed on December 24th and reopen on December 26th and be closed on January 1st. However, on January 1st is the Amity Teen Center's Chili Run, which is a great event, and they do a lot of good for the youth of our Tri-Town region, and that is at High Plains Community Center, and they have a pre-registration for that, which you can find online if you look up the Amity Teen Center, and we look forward to be there helping people. Thank you. Minutes, to consider and act on the minutes of the November 12th meeting of the Board of Selectmen. Any errors, omissions, or corrections? If so, state page and paragraph.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstain. It's unanimous. New business. To consider and act on a request to waive the bid process to add the current license plate reader system. To add to the current license plate reader system, Chief Gagnon.
So you all have in your packets my memorandum concerning adding to our license plate reader system. We've had a company that we've been doing business with for about a little over a year and a half, called Recor. We have 3 license plate readers in town through Recor. We chose Recor at the time because that's what New Haven has, and we work very closely with the New Haven Police Department, and we are able to share data with them. West Haven has recently gone to Recor as well. We shared data with the city of West Haven. Some of the other departments in Connecticut are using a different system called Flock. To be able to share data with those departments, we would need to have Flock as well. Milford PD recently went to Flock, and they've installed 50 Flock cameras in the city of Milford. We work very closely with the Milford Police Department. We want to be able to share data with them. The state police have Flock. We want to be able to share data with the state police. It is a very, very important tool that helps us prevent crime and solve crime. I'm going to give you a very quick rundown of some success stories that we've had with Recor in the short time we've been using Recor, and I'll keep it brief. We had a theft of services from a local restaurant that we made an arrest on. We had a shoplifting from a local business that we made an arrest on. We had a parole absconder who had violent tendencies. We were able to take that individual into custody. We had an individual engage our officers in pursuit. We were able to arrest that individual. We had a stolen vehicle that we were able to make an arrest on. We had a missing person that we were able to locate. We had a stolen motor vehicle involving a robbery that we were able to make an arrest on. We had a suicidal female who was located and sent to the hospital for evaluation before any harm came to her. We had reckless operation of a vehicle that we were able to later arrest the individual for. We assisted Derby Police Department, who had a partial plate. We were able to identify a vehicle, and they were able to get a confession from that suspect in regards to an animal cruelty case. We had a stolen vehicle alert that we were able to make an arrest on, and we were able to turn those individuals over to the Connecticut State Police, who were investigating a shooting incident. We recently had a sexual assault on the Boston Post Road in our town, and we've been able to identify a vehicle, and we've seized that vehicle, and the investigation for that is ongoing. We also had a recent incident where we had an evading motor vehicle accident at Route 1 and Peck, and the vehicle fled into Milford. Because Milford has a flock camera westbound on the Boston Post Road, we were able to request the assistance of the Milford Police Department, and they found 4 vehicles around the same time frame that matched the description of our evading vehicle. They alerted us to those vehicles, and one of the vehicles, the plate was run numerous times later that evening by the Trumbull Police Department. In our contact with the Trumbull Police Department, a similar vehicle that was involved to the one that was involved in our evading was involved in an accident in Trumbull, and the operator was arrested for DUI. That incident remains under investigation, but it's likely the same vehicle that we were looking for. So this is just a small sampling of the cases that we could solve with this technology, that we have solved with this technology. Also, it's a heads up for us. If a vehicle is going to come into our town that's stolen or that's been wanted in connection with a crime in another jurisdiction, that's something we want to know about. And I'm sure that's something that the public wants us to know about. The tool is not meant to spy on our residents. It's meant to protect our residents. This is, in my opinion, a sole source vendor because I want to go to Flock because I need to be able to share data with Milford and the state. We're already sharing with West Haven and New Haven.
They have the flock system too?
They have Recor.
Oh, okay.
And so that's why we want to use both. We don't want to abandon
Oh, all
Recor.
right.
We want to use both. We have the 3 Recore cameras that are operating successfully. There's some hiccups with it, but Flock has a very robust system. I've had multiple meetings with Flock. I have confidence in the company. They've been very responsive to our questions and our needs. And they actually have a company that they deal with called Omnia that has the state contract for the state of Connecticut. But in the interest of transparency and making sure this board has a chance to evaluate this, bringing it to the board for a decision on waiving the bid process, what I'm looking to do is to add 5 LPRs, not the 50 that Milford is putting in, but 5, along with live video cameras, that is going to help us initially lock down the south end of town where most of our crime takes place. The cost of that would be $20,000. Unlike Recore, we own the cameras and we pay for them. Flock, we renting the cameras. There's no hidden cost. There's no maintenance cost. And that would be first year paid for through the police department's asset forfeiture account. We have the monies in there to be able to start this right away so we don't have to wait for July 1st. And we will fund the first year, and then I would ask for that amount to be funded in the operating budget going forward. The first 3 months, if we don't like the system, we could back out of it. If after a year we're not happy, we're under no obligation to continue. They'll come and they'll get their stuff. I hope to be able to, a year from now, to tell this board more success stories of how we've used this technology to solve crime and to prevent crime. Some of the considerations regarding hacking, hacking, we've been hacked at the police department, but the equipment that we put in place, we've been able to stop the hacking. We haven't had to pay ransomware. We've been able to stop it in its tracks. Hacking is always a possibility when you're dealing with this kind of technology. However, Flock has a lot of systems in place to safeguard and to minimize the risk in regards to that. Trying to look for the page that speaks to that. Some of the systems they have in place, ISO 27001 compliance certification, which is an international framework for IT security. SOC 2, Type 2, assessed by an audit that assesses an organization's controls over its data and system. NIST 800-53, an information security standard defined by the National Institute of Standards and Technology, Secure by Design Principles program authored by the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA. It also complies with the FBI and CJIS requirements. So they have good technology in place to minimize any kind of hacking. I know there's concerns about privacy and who we're sharing the data with. We are committed to the Trust Act, which we have to abide by here in the state of Connecticut. So we are not going to be using the technology for purposes that aren't appropriate. We are not going to be sharing our technology out of state because we want to make sure we are only going to share with other departments that are not going to violate the Trust Act. So we will be very selective who we share with. Some of the problems that have happened around the country are a result of municipalities either purposefully or inadvertently sharing their data nationwide. We're smarter than that. We're not going to do that. We have a good general order policy in place already at the police department for our recourse system, and we will certainly practice the best practices to make sure we're not sharing in an unauthorized way. I believe that what is going to happen in the state of Connecticut is that the Police Officer Standards and Training Council, along with the Connecticut Police Chiefs Association, I strongly believe are going to work together to come up with a model policy for the entire state of Connecticut, because we subscribe to the concerns that the public has. We share those concerns. We want to make sure that we're doing things the right way. So the integrity of our police department is without question, but I'm sure the state of Connecticut is going to want to define this through legislation of how you could share data, how long you could keep the data, those types of things that are concerning to the public. And like I said, Post and Connecticut police chiefs are going to have a say in that, and we all believe strongly in the protection of data. So I'm not concerned about any of those things. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions? I knew. Yeah, you might as well stay up here because it may require an answer.
Thank you for that additional information. I appreciate the clarification that that Connecticut is not intentionally sharing data out of the state. That is kind of the bare minimum of reasonable protection that I think we can have for, the residents of our state. But, just to harp on it again, right? Like this is a technology that records everyone's comings and goings across all of our public roads at all times. This is monitoring those who are innocent of all crimes in an attempt to make it easier to catch some of those who are performing other crimes. The success stories are always great, and the more surveillance that you implement, the more success stories you will have. I'm sure if we could ring up the Chinese government and talk to them about how well their universal surveillance system works and how well their social scoring works and how that helps them to ferret out ne'er-do-wells and keep their society running smoothly, I'm sure they would have great things to say about it. But why do we want to be moving towards that? That's not something that we should be moving towards in the United States as, you know what, it'll make it easier to catch a stolen car if all of us report our data to the government at all times of the day. Why does the government need to know when I go to Stop and Shop or go to Lowe's or drive down the street to get gas, right? That's what we're giving up. And it may not seem like a big deal, but this data that we're giving up in all of these different aspects of our lives is one of the last things that we have left. And this data, not necessarily specifically from license plate readers, but this data in other aspects of our lives is already being used directly against us. There are companies that provide active changes to pricing based on where you visited recently. There are places that will, they'll change how much they charge because they raise the price of flu medicine in your Walmart app because you looked up a doctor. These things are real and they're happening because we're losing control over all of our privacy and all of our data. And these are the things that concern me. Even with the protections in place that we're going to not share the data out of the state, that's good today. But what happens when that law gets repealed next week and we change the way we do business and now we have records that go back 5 years and all of our data is floating around out there? When you keep losing this data, it is very, very difficult to get it back and regain that privacy that we should all value, because we shouldn't be inviting these privacy breaches into our daily lives as something that's just like, it's just one more little bit of privacy, because we've already been doing that and it just keeps going further and further, and there is no reasonable end to it that I can see if we don't collectively say, you know what, we don't need a record of every time you drove down to the store or visited your doctor's office. And like you said, these systems have been misused by other states. There have been instances where individuals have been suspected of leaving their home state to commit a crime in a different state when they're doing something that's legal in the other state. There was, recently a woman that was tracked from Texas where abortion access is limited was tracked with these flock cameras out of state to a state where there isn't a limit on abortion access, where she was tracked and harassed because they thought that she was leaving the state to go do something that's legal somewhere else. Could you imagine if before Connecticut had a casino, you got a report that you went to Las Vegas for the weekend because gambling wasn't legal in Connecticut? Where does that sort of thing stop, and why do we keep feeling the need to share this data? It's just very concerning.
Thank you. I think the chief's going to answer, but you can work your way up.
I just want to.
Wait a minute, wait.
Can I just ask one quick question of everybody in the room? How many people in this room have Ring doorbells, Blink cameras, and all those other things that are recording everybody who buys your house?
And is that data streamed live to the government, or is it your information?
Maybe they're hacking it.
I appreciate,
Not appropriate.
I appreciate,
That's the thought process that I'm expressing concern for. Not like your attitude is bad, but that's the thought process that I'm.
Well, there are some that say that too, so.
I appreciate your concerns, and honestly, we share those concerns. We don't want to use our data for inappropriate reasons. I can't speak to what other police departments have done in other states. All I could speak to is what we do here in the town of Orange and what we will be doing here in the state of Connecticut. Flock does have built-in security search parameters that you can't search when you're using terms like abortion or immigration. Anyone that wants to access our system is ultimately probably will come up with a memorandum of understanding that they are only going to be using the data in the same ways that we are. If we get a call from an out-of-state jurisdiction, hey, we think you may have information in your system, whether it be Flock or Recor, involving a crime that happened in our jurisdiction, we are going to be very, very careful that we vet that request. What's your case number? And get something in writing. There is going to be tight controls. They're everywhere. They're everywhere. Like I said, there's 50 in Milford. You can't go anywhere in the city of New Haven without being on camera, without being picked up by a camera, by an LPR, and they're going to be getting traffic cameras too, by the way. The city of New York, Boston, anywhere you go. I understand the Big Brother concerns, but again, we in the Orange Police Department are always going to act with integrity and professionalism. And this has been addressed in the courts already, who have already determined that the collection of this data is not a Fourth Amendment violation. I believe very, very strongly in the Fourth Amendment.
I know it's not.
Okay.
If they told our founding fathers that this was coming, it might be.
Well.
They might have written it in.
Okay.
I understand that it is perfectly legal.
Mitchell.
Thank you. Chief, thank you for bringing this to our attention. Thank you for finding money to pay for it, at least in the first year. I've read through what you've given us and also what you've gone through this evening. As far as the security goes, I'm convinced that the technology will be held in the town's hands and not with the vendor, as is stated here. Anecdotally, today, I have my first experience with an LPR. I, without getting into too much detail, had to trace a town vehicle out of the town of Guilford that was reported to be used by someone for their personal gain in another town. The Guilford Police Department called the other town's police department, and the LPR picked up the fact that the town of Guilford vehicle had gone through their LPR and was actually seen in the exact time and date that substantiated the claim that was made. And it's helping us prove a case. So, you know, I found out today that was very helpful to us. The case is outstanding at the moment, but I support the proposal that's been brought forth this evening.
I remember before the LPRs, we had an employee who would go on shopping sprees of groceries for the ladies at the Board of Ed. And that's what led to all of our pickups of the Board of Ed at that time being all painted Omaha orange. Because prior to that, we may have had a brown one, a gold one, a white one, a tan one. And we had to make them more identifiable. And that was long before these license plate readers now, but you just brought that back. The people who were involved have all passed away since. But I do remember that the truck was at Longini's, it was somewhere else. It was many years ago, but yeah, it happens.
Just real quick, too, it does have the support of the National Center for Exploited and Missing Children because it hits on Amber Alerts. We all remember 2011, the work that we did for 3 days trying to locate a missing child. This is going to help us. It's got the support in some jurisdictions of the NAACP. It's got support from MAD. Case in point, the incident I told you about where we had an evading accident at Route 1 in Peck, and it turns out that that's probably going to be a drunk driver that caused that. So it does have a lot of support out there. And we are not keeping data for 5-6 years. The data is deleted after 30 days.
And I think the contract would have to go before us also.
Our flock data is handled the same, or our Alpha data is handled the same, these proposed license plates with 30-day deletion.
Okay.
That's not the same.
Is there any more questions for the chief on this? Seeing none, thanks, chief.
Chief, you said this was a lease of the equipment?
Yeah, basically, it's a rental of the equipment. They handle all of the maintenance. They handle all the permitting to install it. It works off of solar.
And Exhibit A to your memo, the order form would be the lease agreement? Is that what Flock is proposing?
Yes.
All right, so my recommendation to the board, the agenda item is to waive the bid requirement. If the board is inclined to do that and to enter into the lease, the motion should be to waive the bid requirement and to approve the first selectman, give the first selectman authority to enter into the proposed lease.
What he said.
Just because it's
I make that-
above the threshold of the ordinance, the amount of the money.
If it's appropriate at this time, make a motion to exactly what Attorney Weaver said about waiving the bid ordinance, waiving the bid process and allowing the first selectman to enter into a lease agreement with Flock.
Second.
Questions? Bill, question?
That would be a 1-year lease?
It's,
I think that's what it said in the small.
it's 1 year, and then there's a renewal term. I'm sorry. I believe it's 1 year, and there's a renewal term unless 30-day prior notice. Is that as you understand it, Chief?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Unanimous.
Thank you very much for your support.
Okay,
Your
Chief.
actions tonight are going to help us make the town safer.
Thank you, Chief.
His coat is in our office. I don't know if he's staying or going. We're almost done. Item number 2 is to consider an act on request to approve tax refunds totaling $25,358.83. None of us are on the list. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
All in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Unanimous. Pension Board, Goldblatt.
Yep. November 20th, the pension board met. The funded ratio of the police pension is now up to 67.5%. The funded ratio of the town of Orange pension is now at 75.7%. The average Connecticut funded ratio is 74.3. So the police are a little behind. The town is ahead. But as I said before, we are headed towards, we've got a plan and a path towards fully funding both those plans in the near future. Total asset balance is now just shy of $34 million in our pension fund due to a $1.6 million gain last quarter. That's it.
John, Fred Wolf Park, since PJ is watching skating.
There we go. We're going to hopefully show the findings of B&L presented to this board in their January meeting.
Okay. Any other questions? Questions? Seeing none, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Adjourn at 9:15.